So that is my perspective. It's incredibly dull. It's incredibly boring. You have to be incredibly interested to even know what I'm going on about. It's not particularly, it's all about the rule of law, which is the centre position, and I'm going to go through different positions on that later, but it's all uncontested, the rule of law, and has been this entire time. Has been the whole time I've been on Twitter. And yet, that being my perspective during the period in time where that culture believed you could roll back the rule of law for women like me, means that, like, I am subject to, because a culture identifies my representation, me discussing reality that I am living, and they're telling me I cannot change it because they identify as my representation, and that I'm injuring them by mentioning that. And then they construct artificial tribalism, which is only possible with massive levels of homogeneity, by the way. What the fuck? This is nonsense. And we've kind of allowed this kind of stupidity in a media democracy because we've kind of assumed a fairly coherent understanding of how our systems function, which has largely come from how reliable they are because of the people that work in them. And we've kind of allowed, during a period of stability, some really bad stuff to happen, and these people, and their protection of their belief that they identify as our representation is leading them to increasingly dangerous behaviour. And, like, if you want to understand the British left, don't read Marx, watch Absolutely Fabulous. And then read chapter 10 of Road to Serfdom, where the worst get on top, and that's the combination of elite social closure and the phenomena that Hayek is talking about. And that's the stupidity that you've got with our little fucking I identify as your representation. Fucking Oxbridge proletariat. So the social justice warrior nonsense is just the disciplines. It's what the disciplines that feed this belief system do. It educates the big rich kids. And they've never been told that their identity doesn't matter to nobody. And intersectionality is about the people whose identity doesn't matter shit to anyone. And that's why those systems have matured out of everybody's eyeline and now become a major component in meeting future economic and political challenges. So abusing me off of the internet isn't going to make those shifts undone. That's like, the tide's in and your feet are wet. What the fuck? You're in a digital environment. You can't just translate abusive policy to abusive political narratives and then tell us you identify as our representation or our sex, and then imagine a connection that allows you to threaten our freedom of assembly. Or just, who the fuck? I'm sorry, what? You know, I had to pay a security guard to attend a bunch of middle-aged women, and I get contacted by secret women's groups going, oh, we've been meeting in secret for ages, but we were scared to say publicly, but we're going to come up. This is not alright. But actually, sometimes someone has to rear its head so that you can see it, and that seems to me to be like a fairly manageable digital boil that they're all caught in, chasing a fairly vacuous identity politics that keeps reproducing some fairly toxic stuff. The context that I'm talking about is quite a lot bigger than them, and the crisis that I'm talking about are quite a lot bigger than any of us. So it seems to me that they've demonstrated in this period that the neoliberal consensus was held up, and now they've demanded a conversation about the systems that they've spent 8 years preventing a discussion about. And it's really destructive cycle behaviour that I'm not even interested in. But I am interested in this system failure and the way that this crisis has again generated the same shit, and the way that it's reproducing power relations and what's on display during this crisis, including how many systems and institutions are not aware of the evolution of these institutions. So I don't expect anybody to watch these videos because they're boring as fuck, but I'm putting this on here because if this perspective is really too dangerous, that I can't even have a Twitter account with 1,400 followers to talk about how unable I am to keep a sourdough starter alive, and how pissed off I am with Poldark, then I don't know what to tell you. That's quite important. That this is the period where they've reproduced those power relations after introducing a social dimension to political communication is, I suppose, interesting. But I am actually not identifying as anything. I'm genuinely just fucking at the bottom. And the problem is intersectionality actually means that I can reliably expect that this will just reproduce in system after system, which makes this a problem because we've just generated some really serious crisis, and the reflex response to crisis seems to be lashing out at women like me, and that's translated to quite an abusive environment offline. So these videos are an attempt to make sure that before this crisis reaches proper denouement, it's on record that somebody understood that, and that I'd done everything I could to say I understood that before things reached proper horrible levels, although they've already gone beyond horrible levels, sort of.